From Bill Gates in the White House, to cutting Pfizer deals, to hawking Ozempic, to crying about Marjorie Taylor Greene and Rand Paul, to bankrolling the opposition to Thomas Massie with his mega donor that he thinks is more loyal to Israel than America, to H-1B visas, to calling Epstein a Democrat hoax, to endorsing Lindsey Graham, to claiming there is no affordability issue in his booming economy golden age while he talks about his fancy ballrooms and golden walls, it seems like people in MAGA have had enough. Is he finally waking up his base to the fact that he's underachieving? And if this truly is the moment that enough people start challenging Trump, I'm going to make the case for why it's actually a good thing and provide solutions to those who feel overwhelmed by not believing in Trump like he's Iron Man, Batman, or the return of George Washington. So first, let's just show proof and go through all of his recent missteps that seems to be bothering most of Twitter and any Trump supporter under the age of 40. I'm not saying people over 40 are happy with it too, because a lot aren't, but I do think that that's the only demographic that still would let Trump spit in their face. And they would say it's secret MAGA goo from MAGA Q to fight the left. I'm just playing. But a large portion of his base isn't happy with the following. Let's show clips. Bill Gates at the White House, front and center, sitting right next to Melania.
Well, I'm in the second phase of my career, giving away all the wonderful money that Satya's good work has helped multiply a lot. But I think the thing that ties my first career that I still spend some time on because AI is so phenomenal, and my second career is innovation, innovating in health in areas like vaccines or gene editing, and the president and I are talking about taking American innovation to the next level to cure and even eradicate some of these diseases. He mentioned polio, which is one that we're close. We don't need new science on that one.
Bill Gates just so happened to have known Jeffrey Epstein, just like Donald Trump and a lot of people in both parties, but I'm sure that's just a coincidence. And real quick, let me just show you the reporting that for some reason 99.9% of Republican journalists couldn't do besides myself, which is Trump has always been working with Bill Gates, even in his first term. And there's a big piece of the puzzle when it comes to some of the legislation around vaccines and flu that was underreported. Man, if only Jeffrey Epstein could see his two homies just crushing in the White House having fun like that. I have a whole other video I did last week on Bill Gates and Donald Trump, and I'll tell you what most Trump supporters and Republicans don't want to tell you. And Democrats won't tell you either, by the way, because they're not doing this type of reporting. But Trump and Bill Gates are not enemies. Trump offered Bill Gates a White House position in 2018. Bill Gates said in 2018 that he got Trump super interested in a flu vaccine, and in 2019, 6 months before the pandemic, Donald Trump passed an executive order for modernizing influenza vaccines. Pretty crazy that nobody wanted to point that out to you in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, literally never. Maybe now that people are starting to question him, they'll hear me out. Because I find this weird thing of people acting completely delusional for years, going to get money, opportunities, work at certain places. All of a sudden now they care so much. I'm not saying I care, because the truth is the truth no matter why somebody wants to tell it, but I'm just letting a lot of people know. This is why, although I have a lot of people that I like perhaps, I don't really trust that many people in politics, because they haven't earned my trust, because I've already seen how they'll ignore information like I just showed you for years on end, and I know that they see it. They just don't want to close certain doors in the industry. Here's Trump cutting Pfizer deals, humiliating RFK Jr.
I think it's an historic day.
Is this the coolest office? He has a beautiful office, but the Oval is the coolest, right? What do you think?
I think by far. And I have seen other presidents' offices. There's nothing like that.
Yeah, it's good office.
Yeah.
But of course, RFK Jr. probably can't do anything because Trump is so petty. If he actually tried to stand up to Trump, he'd probably get kicked out, and Trump would replace him with a pharmaceutical lobbyist like Trump had there in his first term. Hawking Ozempic, I mean, RFK did this a little bit as well.
Trump just gave a $35 billion giveaway to Big Pharma so he could subsidize fat Americans taking Ozempic. So, you know, all those people are always angry at the obese people. I don't want to pay for their health care. Trump's paying for their health care.
I'd rather pay for their Oreos.
Trump, yeah, remember that? So this is what's happening.
So today I'm thrilled to announce that the two world's largest pharmaceutical manufacturers, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, have agreed to offer their most popular GLP-1 weight loss drug. I call it the fat drug, remember?
And there's a push to recommend Ozempic for Americans as young as 6 over a condition, obesity, that is completely preventable and barely even existed 100 years ago. The American public, because of this agreement, will lose 125 million pounds by this time next year. So it is going to have dramatic effects on human health in this country. And I want to thank President Trump for his leadership. He said that I'd gotten a lot done as HHS secretary.
I'm sorry, it's embarrassing. It might not bother a lot of people, but for me and plenty of others, it's the opposite of Make America Healthy Again. It's just embarrassing. Here he is complaining about Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is the most in-touch Republican, who is doing probably the best work this year at not acting like an alien who works for a foreign country and just makes money off of stocks. Even though I've heard she does make pretty good money off of stocks, but I'm just saying she's doing her job pretty well.
Yeah, so I don't know what happened to Marjorie. She's a nice woman, but I don't know what happened. She's lost her way, I think. I'm surprised at her. But when somebody like Marjorie goes over and starts making statements like that, it shows she doesn't know. I don't devote a lot of my time. Let me give you...
Rand Paul. Trump put out multiple True Socials about him. I understand that Rand Paul can be kind of a stickler on certain things, but he did campaign for Trump in 2020. And let's be honest, the problem in Washington is not the Paul family. If we had more Ron and Rand Pauls, maybe we'd get actual good legislation passed instead of spending bills, foreign aid, and a lot of the other junk that Rand Paul typically doesn't support, even when the establishment and Trump sometimes want him to. Thomas Massie, one of my favorite politicians, is not only being attacked by Donald Trump, but Trump's big donor, Miriam Adelson, is also spending money against Thomas Massie, as is Paul Singer and some other billionaire. Trump and the GOP has taken over $500 million from the Adelson family. Here's Trump in Israel saying that he thinks Miriam might like a different country more than America.
But I actually asked her, I'm going to get her in trouble with this, but I actually asked her once, I said, so Miriam, I know you love Israel. What do you love more, the United States or Israel? She refused to answer. That might mean Israel, I must say.
But the weird part is the entire GOP and a lot of the Democratic Party and a lot of foreign nations are adopting a definition of anti-Semitism in which what Trump just said would be considered anti-Semitism. So whenever anybody tries to call me an anti-Semite or anti-Semitism on my page, I try to bring that up because your opinion and my opinion of what you think the word means and what is hateful and bigotry in your opinion, it doesn't matter. What matters is the official government definition, because that's the one being passed into legislation, not my feelings or your feelings or what you think is hate speech. It's what they're passing into law. So if you want to learn that, for 6 years now, I've been talking about it. Go to the State Department website, Google State Department defining anti-Semitism. You can read the official U.S. government definition of anti-Semitism.
And the more you attack our moral character, the more we're going to double down in a direction. And I will say this, the behavior by a lot, both privately and publicly, are pushing people like you and me away. The way you are treating me is so repulsive. I have text messages, Megan, calling me an anti-Semite.
And once again, 99.9% of Republican influencers refused to talk about this for 6 years. And I know for a fact some of your favorite people, they knew about it, but they knew they could make more money and gain more connections by not talking about it. Now that you can talk about this type of stuff, yeah, everybody's talking about it. Once again, I think is a good trajectory and a trend. But how am I supposed to trust people who I know for a fact I was trying to tell this to in 2019 and 2020, and they stared at me with a fluoride stare that was probably more like a, I could go get money at one of these big corporations stare, or a, I want to get invited to Mar-a-Lago stare, or a, I know I could make millions and be on the news every day if I don't talk about this stare. But right. Now they're so much realer and better than me. Whatever. Here's what Trump recently said about H-1B visas. And to Laura Ingram's credit, she not only didn't buy it, but she hasn't bought it for a long time, and she always pushes back against this with Trump.
Republicans have to talk about it, Laura.
And does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people
here.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put you.
How did we ever do it before?
Well, let me
when you and I were growing up.
Here's a big donor in the Republican Party, Palmer Luckey, explaining that H-1B visas are a scam.
Of course, there's so much H-1B abuse. You would not believe what I saw when I was in Silicon Valley. It is insane. It's obviously a program to try and replace U.S. workers with basically slave labor that can't ever escape. The H-1B abuse is crazy.
Ron DeSantis says they're a scam. I would say under 40, once again, most of MAGA doesn't want tens or hundreds of thousands or perhaps millions of immigrants, many of which are coming from India, to come take American jobs. And the best Trump can do is say, we don't have the talent here. Isn't it weird that throughout the 1900s, America led the world in innovation, and we didn't have to flood our country with people from 5 different continents and all over the world? Because really, if you want to know the real history of the United States of America, before the Hart-Celler Act, they were thinking a little bit more about where they wanted to bring people in. Of course, now that would be considered racist, but now it's the left opens the border with Mayorkas, and Donald Trump wants to bring millions of people from foreign countries because we just don't have the talent. If we don't have the talent, what about the tens of millions of people who gained citizenship over the last 50 years? Isn't that why we're giving so many people citizenships, to gain the talent and let people work in America? We have people from everywhere in the world. If you watch the Olympics, America is consistently one of the greatest countries. We have a diverse already rollout of so many different types of people, and same with the technology field, etc. We've always been ahead of the curve, and we've always been leading the world, but now we just don't have enough here. We need more. Everybody knows Donald Trump's lying about that. And here's what I want to say. I know a lot of people like Donald Trump and they trust Donald Trump, but if you really look at the history of Donald Trump, he is a billionaire. He is an elite. He did donate to Hillary Clinton. He did give her a standing ovation after he won.
Thing that I wanted to say, because I was very honored, very honored, when I heard that President Bill Clinton and Secretary Hillary Clinton was coming today. And I think it's appropriate to say, and I'd like you to stand up.
He did give Anthony Fauci an award as his supporters were getting in trouble for January 6th. He did brag about Operation Warp Speed. He says he got his boosters. He thinks it saved 100 million lives because he did it, and he's an egomaniac who can't take the L. This idea that Trump is some sort of moral right-wing compass who would really stand up to the elites, it just doesn't seem to match anything he's ever done and anything he likes to do with business. Trump is a businessman. That's why a lot of people like him. They're like, he does business. Well, Bill Gates does business too. Mark Zuckerberg does business. Sam Altman does business. George Soros does business. There's a lot of people doing business, but Trump would sell salt to a snail and water to a whale. He has absolutely no moral compass when it comes to business. As long as it raises the GDP or makes America look good, he'll do business with literally anyone. If Satan owned an evil company that had a market cap of $10 trillion, Trump would be selling evil. That's just kind of who he is. So when Trump shills H-1B visas, it's definitely possible that he thinks Americans are not talented and we're just too stupid, I guess, even though we've already had mass immigration from the whole world to do anything. But the chances are that Trump's good friends are people that are rich, famous, successful, and own companies. He knows these people very well. This has been his friend group for a long time, and they like cheap labor. And they like foreign labor. And unlike Palmer Luckey, they're not interested in telling people that there's a scam going on. There's a lot of scams going on, especially ethnic scams where certain people are only hiring their own and then calling it racist when you notice, or want to stop the open gates of them choosing other people, not because Americans can't do it, but because they're gaming the system. Trump doesn't care about any of this stuff. There's mounting evidence that he never did. During 2021 and 2022, when Trump was just a private citizen out of office, one thing that I would always say is if you listen to him in interviews, it was basically just him hawking the vaccine, saying he was getting his booster, saying his supporters should be on his side with this, saying they saved 100 million lives. He was basically like a Judas goat for the pharmaceutical industry, bragging about all of his socialist big pharma accomplishments.
I pushed them like they've never been pushed before. And that's why we have it.
Greatest achievements was getting the vaccine done in 9 months instead of 5.5 to 12 years. But The problem is, we save tens of millions of lives all over the world, but I can't talk about it because our beautiful base, of which some of you are there, you get angry when we mention the word vaccine. Don't get angry.
You did everything you could to get this vaccine out. I know where you
It was one
stand
of
on
the
the
greatest
vaccine.
achievements. We did it in less than 9 months.
To be able to do that.
Yeah,
But now it's taken a twist, right?
And then people don't want it, and it probably even affects the others because, there's a big situation with a lot of people don't want to take the vaccine. Well, this played right into their hands. And they want me to do public service messages and everything about everybody taking the vaccine. And look, I guess in a certain way, I'm the father of the vaccine because I was the one that pushed it. To get it done in less than 9 months was a miracle. Fauci said it would take 3 to 5 years. He thought it was something that just wouldn't be that effective because it would take so long to get. I pushed the FDA like they have never been pushed before. I wouldn't exactly say they're in love with me. They have never. This is a very bureaucratic organization. I pushed them like they've never been pushed before, and that's why we have it.
The vaccine is one of the greatest achievements of mankind. We would have had in 1917, remember the Spanish flu, killed perhaps 100 million people. Can you imagine if you had to go through what all of the countries of the world who are now getting the vaccine or soon will be getting it from various companies, but can you imagine if all of those countries had to go through what they've been going through over the last year? You'd lose hundreds of millions of people.
Let the teachers get the vaccine. They should get the vaccine. I hope they do. Again, it's something I'm very proud of. I think if we didn't come up during the Trump administration with a vaccine, you could have 100.
And what I would say was, if any Republican influencer did this, any single one, pick one that's famous, top 100, top 1,000, I don't care if they're neocon, Zionist, critical of Israel. I'm talking any Republican influencer on any scale of anything. If anybody did that, anyone, they would have been humiliatingly laughed out of the Republican Party, laughed out of fame, laughed out of trust. Literally no one could have got away with that. Someone like a Ben Shapiro who did horrible COVID reporting, turned it around a little bit, apologized sort of, and even that to me is embarrassing, and I would never trust Ben again. Not that I ever did, because obviously it's Ben Shapiro, but
we now know that we were lied to by everyone. We were lied to by the scientists. We were lied to by Pfizer. We were lied to by the government. We were lied to by the Biden administration. We were lied to. I don't like being lied to. I don't know about you. And it makes me not believe these people.
Even he made more of an effort to pretend like he was upset that he was wrong or whatever and sort of apologize. Trump was just hawking vaccines the entire time because he's a part of the system. He's a part of the orchestration of them rolling out. He's proud of it. He never once changed his mind. And there's not a single Republican influencer that could have maintained the stature of Donald Trump. It's pretty crazy. I was like, when it was him versus DeSantis, obviously DeSantis is a politician too, but I couldn't believe how many people in MAGA were just running back into the arms of Trump and being like, he's going to save us because Alvin Bragg was going to arrest him. A lot of people don't remember this, but Tim Pool, all of these people were saying Trump's time is done because they were hearing what a shill and an idiot Trump was. And then when the Alvin Bragg arrest happened, it's almost like people got brainwashed. They're like, he's my leader. I trust him. He will get retribution for us. I've come up with a new term. It's called hero hallucination. People are just hallucinating hero tales that they wish were true. But there's no evidence and proof that Donald Trump was ever going to do that because he proved those 2 years after he was out of office that he's a total out-of-touch shill and horrible leader for our movement, our party, and the country. He doesn't care about anything that everyone else cares about, but because he's Trump, people just assumed that was a mistake, even though he never said it was. They assumed that he had learned his lesson, even though he was telling you he didn't. If you say there's no better option and I'm voting for him over DeSantis and Kamala anyway, that's fine with me. I'm not going to sit and argue with it. I get it. I understand. Close the border. Yeah, there's things that he does better. But to trust him and like beg for him back and think he's exactly like you, I couldn't believe watching it happen during the primaries. So the reason I'm bringing all this up is because a lot of people will now say, oh, Trump has just changed over this last week or two, or Trump is really different than he used to be. He's been this way since late 2019 and 2020. And if you go back to 2019, whether it's his omnibus bills or these Israeli anti-Semitism speech laws or during COVID, once again, I'm not trying to make this into a competition, But I feel like pretty much nobody was doing reporting against Donald Trump, and I'm just screaming into the wind. And I'll tell you, at the time, you didn't get clicks and views for calling out Israeli influence. You lost money, you lost opportunities, you got blacklisted. And Secretary of State Mike Pompeo saying confidently, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism.
Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism.
The problem is, a Jewish liberal journalist says more proof that Zionism is rooted in anti-Semitism. So if you're following it yet, if you're pro-Zionism, you're anti-Semitic by some people, but if you're anti-Zionist, you're anti-Semitic. So no matter what your stance on Israel is, you're anti-Semitic. No matter what your stance on Judaism is, no matter what your stance on anything is, somebody is going to call you anti-Semitic, whether it's the left, whether it's the right, whether it's somebody Jewish or somebody non-Jewish. Every stance is being considered anti-Semitic. But most people don't know what it really means, and it isn't defined like they think it is. Let's go to the State Department's website, defining anti-Semitism. They're bragging on this website, anti-Semitic acts are criminal. So you thought free speech was free on the right Republican wing? Well, they lied to you. They sold it out, and we're going to get into that later. Anti-Semitism is criminal. Just violent acts, right? Not harmless speech. Well, no, actually they've sold that out. They've determined that pretty much everything and anything is harmful speech. Here's part of the list that's on the State Department's website. Making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews, as such as the power of Jews as a collective, such as, especially but not exclusively, the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy, or of Jews controlling media, economy, government, or other societal institutions. And all I'm trying to say, just to be honest, because if you really want to know the truth as well, a lot of things are rubbing me the wrong way now, because people that I know for a fact didn't say anything because they knew they were going to lose a lot then, didn't call Trump out in 2020, didn't do any sort of journalism against Trump. Now they're going to lead the charge of all of this stuff, and now they're going to say that he changed, and now they're going to... He's been doing it, and it's nice that everybody wants to talk about it now, and I'm very glad, but I will never fully trust somebody that I know for a fact knew what I knew in 2019, but didn't want to do it because they wanted money, opportunities, and connections. And in 2020, Trump was a borderline lockdown pharmaceutical communist, and nobody was calling him out then. And nobody was talking about what he was doing in 2021 and 2022. And nobody did the reporting about his connections to Bill Gates then. I don't think they didn't know. I think they purposely didn't want to know and didn't want to look there. And if they saw it, they just ignored it because they knew ignoring it would gain them access to certain things. I say all this to say this. Trump didn't just change this week or with the H-1Bs. I made a video about Trump lying about H-1B visas in 2019 or 2020, and I told people then that Trump was actually further left than Bernie Sanders used to be on H-1B visas, and here's the proof. Let me play this clip of Laura Ingraham really grilling President Trump and disagreeing with him, since Trump is a big believer in H-1B visas, and Laura Ingraham thinks it hurts American workers.
You've done a lot. On the economy today, we found out that, still added 146,000 jobs. Unemployment historically low at 3.5%. But we do have a little bit of a stall out on wage growth, which you ran on, and we've seen some, 2.9% last year, 0.1% over last month. But we don't have a tight labor market. If we had a tight labor market, we'd be seeing real increases in wages. I hear that your team is planning on advocating more foreign workers coming in for some of these high-tech companies. So I'm very concerned about that, as are a lot of your supporters.
And so is Mark Levin a little bit.
Yeah, we're concerned because
so
Americans,
you
ran on America
Lou Dobbs is concerned for years.
But for Google, why reward Google? Google's working against you in this
I don't want to reward Google. I'm not a fan.
All they want is low-skilled workers,
I'm not a fan of Google, but I'm a fan of great companies, okay?
You didn't run on bringing more foreign workers into the United States.
It's not foreign workers. We have to allow smart people to stay in our country. You graduate #1 in your class at Harvard. You graduate from the Wharton School of Finance. No, it's not. It's a lot.
But you ran on people training their foreign replacements. That you ran against that. Americans, it's humiliating for an American worker, work for a company for 30 years. Now it's told you got to train your foreign replacement is going to live in Korea and you're going to pay him 20%.
No, that's different. I would never do that. But we do need workers in our country. And I do want an immigration policy. Nobody's been better on immigration than me. By the way, we won the funding for the wall, and the wall's been built anyway because I was taking it out of the military, everything else.
It always ends, there's a never-ending appetite on the part of corporate America to bring in as much cheap labor as possible to drive down
Laura,
wages.
I have so many...
Now, a lot of people who lean left might say, oh my goodness, Laura is racist. She's all concerned about race. She doesn't care about American workers. She just doesn't like people of certain races. You might be shocked to find out that old Bernie Sanders actually used to agree with Laura Ingraham. If you don't believe me, you could listen to Bernie Sanders in his own words.
And that gets us to the immigration issue. If poverty is increasing and if wages are going down, I don't know why we need millions of people to be coming into this country as guest workers who will work for lower wages than American workers and drive wages down even lower than they are right now.
And as we know, the principal industries which hire the bulk of illegal aliens, that is construction, landscaping,
Lou, I just heard something.
Those are all industries in which wages are declining. I don't hear that discussed on the Senate floor by the proponents of this amnesty legislation.
That's right. They have no good response. I just read something today that a lot of people coming into this country are coming in as lifeguards. I guess we can't find, that's right, we can't find American workers to work as lifeguards, and the H-1B program has teachers, elementary school teachers. Well, you know.
So most of this stuff is not new. It's just new that MAGA actually gives a crap. It's just new that most influencers actually want to talk about it now. And once again, I think most influencers want to talk about it now because they're opportunists. They know that now they have an opportunity to talk about it, not really lose anything because they could podcast on their own and they don't really need Trump for anything. And now they want to talk about it because they could make money off it. But if they were going to lose money to talk about it, I was making videos about this stuff and it wasn't doing numbers for me. But I wasn't going to just stop talking about it because it wasn't doing numbers. I've talked to other people in this space who people think are so authentic and they're really for the truth. They tell me, I put out a video, I see if it does numbers. If it doesn't do numbers, regardless of the topic, I'll never talk about it again. These other people are riding trends that really brave people are creating. Throw those people out of the conversation and then just try to take the revenue when it actually works. What about the people who knew that it wasn't popular but wanted to make it popular? These are the people that are in it for the right reasons, not the people pretending to be in it for the right reasons who purposely ignore it when it's not cashing out. It's the ones who do it for 5, 6, 7 years when it's not profitable and they make it profitable by making it popular. That's impressive. Not people last week saying, oh, Trump's really changed, because you closed your eyes about Donald Trump for the last 5 years and left a lot of us hanging in the middle of nowhere, screaming in a megaphone that Trump has been this person for a while now. And just to go through all of the other things that I said I would, Trump is set to endorse Lindsey Graham, of course, because Trump and Lindsey Graham work for the same people, just like I suspect Trump works for the same people that Epstein worked for. I mean, that's pretty obvious to anyone paying attention. You're not supposed to say it, but whatever. And then the worst thing that he's probably doing, even though all of these things were bad, claiming there's no affordability issue because he thinks his economy's so booming. When's the last time you think Donald Trump himself personally paid for health insurance, cared how much it cost, did this? He hasn't done anything for so long. He probably has assistants, managers, and he probably has for over 50 years now. There's no affordability issue, guys. Not in my golden ballroom, there's not. This guy is a total clown. Not only is he ruining MAGA, which is probably for the better because MAGA's been fake for a long time, if not ever, and that's been at least clear for a long time, but he's going to crash and burn our entire party and our entire future, and the prospects of somebody like a Thomas Massie, a Marjorie Taylor Greene, or a Rand Paul with better morals and better principles when it comes to America First stuff. He's not only not doing it, but he seems like he's going to be the Lindsey Graham, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro type gatekeeper, preventing any of these people from coming through. So I think MAGA needs to have a really rude awakening conversation about who Trump really is, because he's not only not going to get the job done, and to be honest, at this point, he's probably the most overrated right-wing leader in modern history. People think he's as good as George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. When it's all said and done, he oversaw the lockdown. He told Georgia to stay locked down. He printed trillions of dollars. He told Thomas Massie to shut up about it. He sold vaccines. He did socialism for the pharmaceutical industry. He bought a bunch of doses. He bragged about it while his supporters were getting in trouble. Like, it not only is he not as good as George Washington? There's arguments to make maybe outside of like Biden and Obama, and I'm sure a few others. He might be one of the worst presidents in modern history who has brainwashed Republicans into thinking he's the greatest. So his legacy is on the line, and the future of real Make America Great Again, America First, or any sort of semblance of right-wing leadership that wants to make America great, this is all on the line. I think it's good that this is happening. I think it needed to happen, because if Kamala would have won the election, then people would have said, oh, well, Trump will come back later, or somebody like Trump will come back later. It's all fake, or a large portion of it's fake. So people needed to figure it out now, 4 years ago, in 4 years. Like, it had to happen at some point. If this is the point, I'm glad. I'm glad he won. I'm glad he closed the border. I'm glad he's showing who he is, and I'm glad MAGA is paying attention, because now we can talk about what we're going to do. And to me, right now, since Trump is the president, the answer is Republican journalists, news analysts, and reporters need to do their job. One thing that I noticed, and I'm just being really honest right now, because I'm sorry if this comes across petty or anything, but I'm just being really transparent with my audience. I feel subtly disrespected by a lot of people, and even a lot of supporters and fans, not saying you guys necessarily, but people watching the whole space thinking, oh, Anomaly's not saying enough, and Anomaly's not doing this, and Anomaly's not doing that, and they're doing this and that, and they're talking. Okay, but let's look at track record, and also let's look at really key pivotal moments, not just COVID, not just who talked about Israel influence when you had everything to lose, but let's talk about Vivek Ramaswamy, the pharmaceutical billionaire who said he cried on January 6th and wrote a book saying a lot of stuff that people don't even know.
And I saw the disgrace that unfolded at the footsteps of the Capitol on January 6th. I cried. I was in tears when I watched on television that day.
Why was I like the only person who actually gave him a real journalistic interview and actual pushback and asked actual questions about his billion-dollar pharmaceutical past? After COVID, after lockdowns, after Operation Warp Speed, people are just going to let this pharmaceutical billionaire into our party and, oh, he should be the vice president. I'm not hating on the guy. Yeah, this could be a big tent for him. I'm just saying he's not my leader. Who is this guy? Can we do some real journalism? All of these truth tellers, all of these people that are, oh, they're so ahead of they were all just like great friends with Vivek. They're like, I don't want to ask him questions. I like him. I'm hanging out with him. He's my best buddy. He's a pharmaceutical billionaire who you didn't know 5 minutes ago, and he's snake charming you by flattering you. So you don't do real journalism. Listen, you can have friends. I'm not saying you have to press everybody, but if a pharmaceutical billionaire who you didn't know last year pops up out of nowhere, says he's ultra MAGA or running for office, whatever, and nobody has any questions about his pharmaceutical past, and no one has any questions about who he is or the book he wrote, like actual journalism, I believe it was because at the time you were working in the biotech pharmaceutical industry. So that's what you were doing. You were focused on sucking up money, advancing your company. You weren't really concerned with what we were dealing with or the truth about it. Because if I can do it with a calculator, I think you could have done it or Trump could have done it. But Trump hired Alex Azar, a pharmacy executive lobbyist. Trump took $1 million from Pfizer. Trump had meetings with Bill Gates in 2018 where Bill Gates told him about modernizing flu vaccines. And in 2019, before the pandemic, Trump passed an executive order for that. So I don't think that I'm so smart that I just had the foresight. I think that I actually care. And Trump was being a politician that I believe sold out to Big Pharma. And I think you were working with Big Pharma. So I don't think I had insight. I just think you care now because you're running for president. This is the problem with not just MAGA, but this is the problem with conservative media. So many people are just so fake or so lazy or not trying to take risks to help the party and help the country. Like, there's so many things I could point to like that literally almost everyone failed on, that literally almost everyone was saying I was doing too much or I was crazy, or I was being rude, and now everybody agrees with me. Why is that? So what's the solution? People need to do their jobs. You're paying these people and watching these people and supporting these people to basically be fans of politicians or just do nothing. You know, I've done well for myself, but at least I earned it. I could look back on all of the journalism I did, and I'm shocked that I was even able to do it with no editors and no help or anything. I'm burnt out, to be honest. That's why I don't make videos like this anymore, because I've put so much work in over the last 10 years, but I'm earning it. How are you earning it? By being best friends with Vivek and playing patty cakes with him and acting like Trump's just messing up now when he's been messing up and you just didn't want to talk about it and you made fake excuses for him and you said he thought that it's nonsense. So the solution is people need to do their jobs. Trump is not a baby. He's not getting fooled by Susan Wiles. He's a grown adult who's leading our party, and he's failed us for a long time. Have the same energy for him that you have with Lindsey Graham. Ask him questions in an interview like people want to ask Ted Cruz questions. He's a politician. He's leading our party. He sucks on almost every topic now except for the border. And it's not a new phenomenon. It's a new phenomenon that people are pretending to care. Do your job. If a pharmaceutical billionaire who cried on January 6th shows up and says he's like going to be the vice president and you think he should be the vice president, give him a real interview. You don't have to do it as good or as rude perhaps as mine, but do something. Ask a question. Don't just slobber and drool over the guy. And then 2 years later, oh yeah, I didn't see that. Because you're not looking. So not just influencers, journalists, news reporters, podcasters, but average people as well. Stop being super fans of people who don't deserve it. You vote for them, you support them, and then they take hundreds of millions of dollars from mega donors and corporations, and then they work for the mega donors and corporations and convince you that it's not happening. That's why they get to be there. That's their role, is the guy who could suck up all the money, do what all the rich people want, and convince you that they're not doing it. That's the entire politician. Oh, Marco Rubio is a good politician now. He's exactly who he always was. It's just now who he always was is being branded through Donald Trump. Just like people believed George Bush for 8 years and thought he was like really on their side, they're doing it with Donald Trump. So Marco Rubio hasn't changed. Yes, he's an impressive politician because he's well-spoken and he's, you know, a good talker. I think he's a good politician, but I don't think he drastically changed and he's so base now. It's that Trump sucks so much that he'd hire somebody like Marco Rubio. They work for the same donor owners, and now Trump doesn't want to talk about Marco Rubio's donors like he talked about them in 2015 because Trump works for them now too, like a little puppet. That's what's going on. Am I the only one that's going to tell you? Am I doing too much right now? Excuse my passion, but this is the solution. People, journalists, voters, Republicans, the future of not just MAGA, but our entire movement is on the line, and we're being led by somebody that is super overrated, super overbabied by our side, and super under-questioned. They just had a former wanted al-Qaeda terrorist at the White House treating him like Justin Bieber. Trump's giving him perfume. Did any mainstream media journalist ask a question about it? Has anybody that has any sort of access, even if they're not mainstream media, to Trump or anyone in his administration asked a question about it? Is anyone asking Caroline Leavitt about, like, it's like we're living in a Black Mirror Truman Show episode where I seem like I'm being mean or rude or whatever, and just nope, everybody's like robots, like, welcome to the 5 o'clock news, ladies and gentlemen. And you're like, come on, Anomaly. I mean, come on, you're being a little too hard on these guys. Bro, they're billionaires running our country that get hundreds of millions of dollars from donors. It's not like I'm going on the street just looking at a random grandma and kicking her off the curb into traffic. Like, that's not what I'm doing. I don't just like harass random people. I'm extraordinarily careful when I talk about anything because I want to be really accurate and really transparent. And I reserve my heavy scrutiny for pharmaceutical billionaires running for office that most people think should be the vice president of the United States. They're completely wrong, and they've never asked him a question. Or Donald Trump, a guy who donated to Hillary Clinton, who's been running the country for 5 years now, who people think is Batman, when in reality he works for donors and his corporate buddies. I'm not doing too much. I'm not picking on people for no reason. I'm just doing my job. And I'm sorry for my attitude today, but I feel very subtly disrespected by a lot of people. And I'm not saying they're purposely doing it, and I'm not saying people owe me anything, but when it comes to this industry, just like Cat Williams went off on Shannon Sharp and it got so many views because he was just saying, I've never signed a deal, I've never put on a dress, I've never done this, I've never been on the In Club. That's me. That was me in music. People don't even really know that, and they probably think I'm just making it up, but I turned down multiple music deals. I never worked for these news corporations. I knew I pretty much got blacklisted for talking about Israel's influence 5-6 years before everybody else. I got COVID almost completely right. I was pretty much the only person who ever gave Vivek a real interview, and I took a heavy media and Zionist orchestrated smear because I did it. So that's all I'm going to say to my peers. God bless everybody. I'm happy everybody's doing their thing, but don't try me, okay? Because I'm the Cat Williams here. I'm the OG. I'm the one who never sold out. I'm the one who's been ahead of the curve. So If you're going to parrot what I said 6 years ago and try to convince people that it's somehow profound, new, or better than what I'm doing, let's just be honest about it. Let's challenge Trump. Let's all serve our country and the Lord. And let's make America great again, because if we leave it to Trump and his donor owners to do it, it's not going to happen. Appreciate y'all. New hats at dreamrare.com, custom made in America. Get yourself one. And thanks for supporting me through the years. Don't be fooled by some of the noise out there.